Elias Grant never expected his life to change on an ordinary afternoon. He had been a human soldier for 3 years, serving in quiet border patrol units on Earth. His job was simple: walk, watch, report. He never imagined anything bigger than that. He never imagined other worlds. He never imagined aliens. And he definitely never imagined becoming someone's protector. But fate does not ask. Before it changes someone's life, it happened during a routine patrol. Elias and his team were walking near an old research site, where scientists had been studying an abandoned worm gate. The device looked dead: thick metal plates, broken wires, and a cold surface that had not moved in decades. Scientists said it could never activate again. So nobody worried about being close to it. Nobody except Elias. He always felt something strange about it, like the air around it was heavier. That day, a sudden energy surge exploded from the worm gate. Light filled the air. The ground shook. His team shouted and ran back, but Elias was too close. He tried to jump away, but a force pulled him inside. Like invisible hands dragging him through a tunnel of spinning lights. He didn't even have time to scream. When he opened his eyes, he was no longer on Earth. He lay on the ground of a strange forest where the trees glowed like they were alive with tiny stars. Each branch shimmered with soft blue light, and the leaves hummed a musical sound, like wind chimes singing. The sky above him was silver, not gray, not white, but shining like polished metal. Elias sat up fast, confused, breathing hard. His heart pounded in fear. Where am I? He whispered. He checked his gear. Everything still worked. His rifle, his pack, his emergency beacon. But none of it mattered because he was not on Earth anymore. The air smelled different. The sky looked wrong. And the forest sounded like the world itself was whispering. Then he heard voices. Soft, frightened, not human. He stood up carefully, raising his weapon, moving slowly between glowing trees. He followed the voices until he reached a clearing, and his breath caught in shock. There were aliens, not monsters. Not beasts, people. 3 guards were lying on the ground, injured and bleeding, their skin a pale blue-gray with silver veins glowing through it. Their hair shimmered like starlight. Their armor was broken, scratched, and burned, and in the middle of them stood a girl, a young girl, no older than 14 in human years. She wore a small crystal crown and a long robe torn at the edges. Her glowing silver eyes were filled with tears and fear. She looked at Elias like he was a nightmare. Elias froze. He didn't move. He didn't want to scare her. Their eyes met. Hers were trembling. His were confused and gentle. Finally, the girl whispered in a shaky voice, Are you here to hurt us? Elias felt a weight drop in his chest. She was terrified. She had every right to be. He was a strange creature from another world. Holding a weapon, standing over her injured guards. Slowly, he lowered his rifle. Then he knelt down, palms open, showing he meant no harm. No, he said softly. I don't hurt kids. I'm not your enemy. The girl blinked, surprised. Her breathing slowed just a little. One of the injured guards tried to stand, groaning in pain. Elias rushed toward him and helped him sit against a tree. The guard flinched but did not fight back. Elias checked his wound. It was deep, ugly, and bleeding badly. The princess watched him quietly. There was confusion in her eyes, but also hope. Elias tore a strip from his own uniform and wrapped the guard's wound. He worked quickly, gently, the same way he had done for injured humans many times. The princess took a small step toward him. Her voice was tiny. You help us? Elias nodded. Yes, I'll help you. I won't leave you alone here. And that moment became the beginning of everything. A strange human, lost on a strange world, kneeling before an alien princess who didn't know whether to fear him or trust him, but trust began to bloom right then. Elias lifted the Kotua princess into his arms because she was too weak to walk and carried her to safety. Beside her injured guards, he had no idea who she truly was. No idea what danger waited in the forest. No idea how this choice would change his entire life. But he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let anything hurt her, not while he was alive. Elias stayed close to the injured guards and the princess as the strange blue forest grew darker. Hours passed and the silver sky slowly shifted into a deep violet shade, as if warning them that night on this alien world was different, more dangerous. Princess Cerise kept glancing at Elias, still unsure whether to trust him completely. But something in his eyes made her feel safe. His voice was calm, his hands gentle, and every time a strange animal cried in the distance, he moved closer to shield her. But the guards were worried. They whispered to each other in their soft alien language, eyes darting around the trees. Their wounds were getting worse, and their energy was fading. Finally, one guard looked at the princess and said weakly, "Your Highness, we must reach the night shelter." "Before they come," Elias turned sharply. "They who?" No one answered, but he could feel it, the air changing, thickening, becoming colder. Something was coming. Cerise clutched his arm tightly. "We must move before the Vorak find us." The name alone made the guards flinch. Elias had never heard of the Vorak, but he understood the fear in their eyes. He lifted the princess gently into his arms. She didn't resist this time. She wrapped one arm around his neck and whispered, "Please hurry." They moved as fast as possible through the glowing forest, but the light around them dimmed, as if the trees themselves were afraid. The humming leaves fell silent. Only the sound of Elias's heavy breathing and the princess's trembling breaths filled the air. Then they heard it, a distant howl, a deep, echoing cry that didn't sound like any animal Elias had ever heard. The guards froze. Elias felt Cerise shake in his arms. "What is that?" he whispered. Cerise whispered back, voice breaking, "The Vorak have found our scent." Elias gripped his weapon tighter. "Then we don't stop." "Not now." But before they could take another step, a shadow moved between the trees, fast, large, silent. Then another, and another. Eyes appeared in the darkness. Dozens of glowing red eyes. Cerise let out a small cry. The guards tried to stand. Even though their legs shook, the Vorak stepped into the dim light. They were tall, with dark-scaled skin, sharp claws, and long jaws filled with jagged teeth. Their bodies were built for hunting. And tonight, they were hunting the princess. One growled, the sound vibrating through the ground. Elias did not hesitate. He placed Cerise behind him and raised his rifle. His breath steadied. His heartbeat slowed. This was familiar danger. Fear, combat. This he understood better than any alien world. A Vorak leapt at them with a snarl. Elias fired. The shot echoed through the forest. The creature fell, screeching. The guards stared in shock. Cerise covered her mouth. More Vorak charged. Elias fired again. Then again. He moved with sharp, trained precision. One shot to stop the closest threat. One step back to protect the princess. His mind worked fast, calculating distances, movements, shadows. But there were too many. One Vorak tackled him to the ground, claws ripping through his armor. Elias cried out, but shoved his arm between its jaws, forcing it back. He kicked it away and rolled into a kneeling position, firing into its chest. Another came from behind. Cerise screamed, "Elias!" He turned just in time, but the creature's claws slashed across his back, making him stumble. Pain exploded through him. His vision blurred, but he didn't fall. He couldn't, not with Cerise behind him. He gritted his teeth and kept fighting. For every Vorak he shot, another appeared. The guards tried to help, swinging broken spears and trying to shield their princess. But they were too weak. One Vorak rushed toward Cerise, its jaws wide open. Elias didn't think. He threw himself in front of her. The creature's claws ripped across his chest, tearing through armor and skin. Elias roared in pain but wrapped one arm around the creature's neck, holding it back as it snapped its teeth inches from his face. Cerise sobbed, "No. Please stop. Elias, please don't die." With the last of his strength, Elias pulled out his sidearm and fired. The creature collapsed on top of him. Everything went still. Elias fell to the ground, bleeding heavily. His hands trembled. The world tilted. He could barely breathe. Cerise dropped to her knees beside him, shaking, tears streaming down her glowing cheeks. "Please. Stay alive, please." Elias tried to smile. He reached up and touched her trembling hand. "As long as you're safe. That's what matters." His vision darkened. The last thing he saw was the princess crying his name as the forest lights flickered around them. The human had protected her with everything he had, even his life. Elias drifted in and out of darkness, floating between pain and silence. Sometimes he heard crying. Sometimes he heard soft humming like wind moving through crystal walls. Sometimes he felt a warm light touching his skin, as if someone was trying to pull him back from the edge of death. But mostly, he felt nothing. When he finally opened his eyes, the world was bright, too bright. A soft glow filled the room, coming from walls that looked like carved moonstone. The air smelled sweet, like blooming flowers and warm rain. His body felt warm, almost weightless. He blinked slowly, trying to understand where he was. Then he saw her. Princess Cerise sat beside his bed, curled up on a chair, her small hand still resting on his arm. Her eyes were closed, but dried tears glistened on her cheeks. She had cried herself to sleep. Elias tried to sit up, but pain stabbed his chest. He groaned quietly. Cerese's eyes shot open. She gasped, "Elias, you're awake." He barely managed a whisper, "Where are we?" But before she could answer, the doors opened. A tall, elegant woman entered the room. Her skin was the same pale blue as Cerese's but softer, glowing faintly with each breath. Her crown shimmered like a ring of frozen stars. Her eyes silver and deep carried both authority and heartbreak. Elias knew instantly that she was someone important. The princess stood up quickly. "Mother." Yes. This was the Queen of Lumeria. She walked slowly toward Elias, her steps graceful, her expression unreadable. For a long moment, she simply looked at him, this human, this stranger, this unexpected protector who had nearly died for her daughter. Finally, she spoke in a quiet voice that still carried the strength of a ruler. "Human, you protected Princess Cerese with your life. Why?" Her question hung in the air like a challenge. Elias swallowed. His throat felt dry. He didn't know what kind of answer she expected. So he told the truth. "Because she needed help," he said softly. "She was scared. She was in danger. Where I come from, you don't leave a child alone in a fight. You protect them." The Queen studied him closely. Her silver eyes softened just a little. Cerese moved closer to him, gripping the blanket near his hand. "He saved me, Mother. He saved all of us. If Elias hadn't been there..." Her voice broke. "I wouldn't be alive." Silence filled the room. Then the Queen did something unexpected. She sat on the edge of his bed and placed a gentle hand over his bandaged chest. Warm energy flowed through him, easing the pain. "Our healers used the strongest light surgery to save you," she said quietly. "You were unconscious for 2 days. Your wounds were deep." Elias nodded slightly. He remembered claws, blood, Cerese crying. He remembered falling. "Thank you for saving my life," he murmured. But the Queen shook her head. "No," she whispered. "It is we who owe you a life debt." Elias frowned. What?" Cerese stepped forward, eyes shining. "In Lumerian law," she explained, "if someone saves the life of the royal family, they become sacred to the throne. They must be protected at all costs. They cannot be harmed. They cannot be abandoned." Elias blinked. That sounded serious. "Too serious. I don't want anything," he said quickly. "I just did what anyone would do." The Queen let out a soft, sad breath. "No human, not anyone. My daughter's guards were trained warriors. Yet they would have failed without you." Her eyes filled with something heavy: fear, gratitude. "Maybe both. You risked everything for a child who was not your own." Elias tried to sit up again. And this time the Queen helped him. He looked around the room. The soft lights. The polished floors. The delicate crystals. This was not a hospital. This was a palace. Cerese sat on the bed beside him, smiling softly. But her eyes were tired. Elias touched her hand gently. "I'm glad you're safe." She nodded and leaned her forehead lightly against his shoulder. The Queen watched them, her expression changing slowly, something warming, something protective. Then she spoke again, her voice full of meaning. "You saved my heir. Human, that is not something I can ignore. Not now. Not ever." Her next words carried a weight that made Elias's heart beat faster. "From this moment forward, you belong to the royal protection, and you will never walk alone in this kingdom again." Elias felt a strange chill. He did not yet understand what the Queen truly meant, but soon, very soon, he would. The palace was quiet now, but Elias could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching him. He had been healed. His wounds were closed, his body restored by the alien medicine, yet the memory of the Vorak attack haunted him. Every shadow, every rustle of leaves outside the crystal windows, reminded him of the night he had nearly died. Princess Cerese never left his side. She followed him everywhere, even to the training halls, where he tried to move cautiously, testing his strength. She asked questions about Earth, about his life, about the strange world he came from. Her eyes were always shining with curiosity and something more, a quiet admiration that warmed him. The human soldier had never felt such attention before. Never felt so responsible for someone's life beyond his own. But the weight of the Queen's gaze pressed down heavier than any armor. She observed him from afar, silently measuring his every movement. Every time Elias caught her watching him, her expression was impossible to read. Respect, suspicion, fear, and something else he couldn't name. Days passed like this. Elias helped train the palace guards in combat techniques. He moved with precision and speed alien to them, teaching human strategies of coordination, patience, and instinct. The guards watched, fascinated. They began to whisper among themselves, "He fights like a Lumerian, but with the heart of a human." And that was what surprised them most, the heart. He was not just strong. He cared. Every movement, every command, every choice he made in combat was about protecting lives, not proving strength. Even Cerise noticed it. One evening, the queen summoned him. Her throne room was larger than any hall Elias had ever seen. Its ceilings reached high into the silver sky above, and crystal chandeliers glowed like captured stars. The doors closed behind him with a soft echo, and for the first time, Elias felt the full weight of her authority. She studied him, and the air between them was thick with unspoken words. "Elias Grant," she said finally, her voice calm but heavy, "you have trained our guards. You have saved my daughter twice. And yet you speak as if you belong to no one." Elias swallowed, unsure how to answer. I don't want to belong. I just want to go home. That's all I want." The queen's expression softened. But then her eyes darkened with a kind of fear he had never seen before. "Do you not understand, human?" she asked quietly. "You cannot leave. Not now. Not ever." Elias froze. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice trembling. Cerise stepped forward, placing a small hand on the queen's arm. "Mother, please," she said, eyes shining with tears. "He is not a prisoner. He is our friend." The queen shook her head. "No, Cerise. He saved your life. Twice. And a life that saves royalty cannot be allowed to walk into danger again. A debt like that, it binds him to us." Elias felt his chest tighten. A debt to a family he barely knew. A debt that chained him to a kingdom where he didn't belong. He tried to speak, tried to argue, but the words caught in his throat. Cerise looked at him with quiet sorrow. "Elias, I don't want you to be forced to stay. But the queen fears for your life, because she knows what you did for me." Elias's mind swirled. He remembered the Vorak, the pain, the clawed hands tearing through his armor, Cerise screaming. And yet, he also remembered her tiny hands clinging to him, her trust in him, and the way her eyes had shone with hope when he had held her. The queen approached him. Her voice softened, almost trembling. "You are brave, Elias Grant, not like any human we have heard of. You think of others before yourself. You risk your life for those you do not even know, and that is why I cannot let you leave." Elias swallowed hard. Fear, frustration, and a strange warmth filled him all at once. He looked at Cerise, who nodded slightly, her trust and care clear in her eyes. For the first time, Elias understood. He was not being kept here out of cruelty. He was being kept here because someone very important cared for him, more than he had ever imagined. And yet, the chains of duty, honor, and fear pressed down on him like heavy stones. He clenched his fists, trying to understand his own feelings. He wanted freedom, yes, but he also felt the pull of the princess, the weight of his choices, and the unspoken bond he had formed with this alien world. And somewhere deep inside, he realized the human heart was capable of more than he had ever known. Courage, kindness, and love could cross worlds. Even if it meant being bound to a kingdom he never expected, he would face it, not as a prisoner, but as a protector. The queen nodded slowly. "Rest now, Elias Grant. Your life is mine to guard, as yours now guards ours." Elias lay back on the soft bed, exhausted, yet feeling something strange and new. Somewhere between fear and duty, he felt belonging, even if it was not the world he came from, even if it was not home. He had found a place where his courage, his heart, and his humanity mattered more than anything else. And that, he realized, was a kind of home too. Days turned into weeks. Elias moved through the palace like a shadow carrying its own weight. Every corner, every hall reminded him that he was not truly free. Guards bowed when he passed. Servants whispered his name. And the queen. She watched him constantly, her silver eyes following his every movement. He could feel her concern, her fear, her respect, and at times, a quiet longing that made his heart tighten. He tried to keep busy. He trained with the princes, helped the guards, and explored the city when he could. Yet every step reminded him of what he had left behind, his world, his family, his home. He missed the familiar sky, the soft hum of his own streets, the smell of rain on Earth's soil. Cerise noticed his quiet moments. She would gently take his hand and ask softly, "Do you miss it?" Your world? Elias would nod, forcing a smile. Yes, but I can't go there, not yet. And the truth hurt him more than the memory of any battle. He didn't belong here, not really. He was a stranger in a beautiful world, a human among aliens. And yet, he could not ignore the bond he had formed with Cerise, or the debt he had unknowingly accepted to her family. The queen called him to the throne room one evening. The large doors closed behind him with a solemn echo. Cerise followed, her eyes wide and anxious. Elias felt his chest tighten as the queen rose from her throne and walked slowly toward him. Elias Grant, she began, her voice quiet but firm. You have spent weeks among us. You have trained our soldiers, saved lives, and protected my daughter more than anyone ever has. And yet I see the longing in your eyes. You wish to return to your world. He swallowed, nodding. Yes, your majesty, I want to go home. I do. But I also cannot leave Cerise and this city unprotected. I don't know what to do. The queen's eyes softened, but a shadow of worry crossed her face. It is not enough to fight, Elias. You must live. And a life that risks itself repeatedly is not a life at all. That is why I cannot allow you to leave. Cerise stepped forward, her voice trembling. Mother, he's not a prisoner. He's the one who saved me. He cares for all of us. Keeping him here against his will, it won't be right. The queen's silver eyes glimmered with unshed tears. I know, child, but what he does for us is not ordinary. A human's courage is fragile, yet you risked everything. I cannot allow that bravery to be wasted in a world that does not understand it. Elias clenched his fists, a storm of emotions building inside him. He wanted to argue, to demand freedom, to return to the life he had known. Yet he could not ignore the truth. This world, these people, had become his responsibility. He had saved the princess, and the queen had placed her trust, and perhaps her fear, in his hands. Cerise reached for him, placing her hand gently over his. You're not just a soldier here, Elias. You are part of us now. And we need you, but I don't want you to stay because you feel forced. I want you to stay because you choose to. Her words struck him harder than any blade. He had fought countless enemies, faced impossible odds, yet here he stood, facing a battle of the heart. Loyalty, duty, and love collided in a way he had never experienced before. The queen studied them, her face a mixture of pride and sorrow. I did not expect to feel this way. I did not expect to care for a human as I care for my own family. But my heart cannot ignore what your presence has brought, Elias, and neither can the kingdom. Elias felt tears prick his eyes. He had never imagined a queen, a princess, and a city of aliens would come to mean so much to him. Yet the desire to return to Earth burned just as fiercely. He was torn between two worlds, each calling him with equal intensity. Cerise squeezed his hand. You've already given us your heart. Now, please, let your heart decide for you. Not fear, not duty, but what you truly want. Elias looked at her, then at the queen. He realized the truth. No one in this palace could understand the human heart completely. And yet, somehow, they had trusted him with their lives, their safety, their love. He understood now that bravery was more than fighting monsters. It was choosing what to protect, choosing who to care for, and choosing the life you would fight to live, even when it tears you apart. He nodded slowly, a silent promise forming in his mind. He did not yet know the choice he would make, but he knew one thing. He could never leave without understanding the depth of this bond, without earning the right to return to the people who had trusted him with everything. And for the first time since he had arrived, Elias felt the true weight of being a human, small, fragile, yet capable of touching worlds in ways that no alien could ever imagine. The night was darker than Elias had ever seen. The silver sky had vanished behind thick, black clouds, and the palace gardens were silent, except for the faint rustling of leaves in the cold wind. But Elias felt it before he heard it, a pulse in the air, a terrible vibration beneath his feet. The Vorak had returned. He had trained with them once. He had fought them once. And yet, knowing they were here, threatening the city and Princess Cerise again, made his chest tighten with fear and anger. The palace alarm rang, long and sharp. Guards rushed to the towers, shouting orders in their musical language. Servants and citizens scrambled for shelter. Cerise, pale and trembling, was quickly guided to a secure chamber by the queen's aides. Elias grabbed his gear. His hands shook. Slightly, not from fear, but from the urgency of knowing lives were at stake. He strapped on the alien armor given to him, which glowed faintly in the dark, and picked up a luminous blade that pulsed like captured lightning. The queen appeared in the hall, her silver eyes wide with worry. Elias, this is not your fight alone. she warned, her voice tight. But Elias shook his head. "I can't let them touch her," he said firmly. "I won't." He dashed through the palace gates and into the city streets. The Vorak were everywhere, tall, dark silhouettes moving with terrifying speed. Their red eyes glowed like fire in the night. Civilians screamed, running for cover, while guards tried to hold the line. Elias did not hesitate. He fought. Every movement was precise, every strike deliberate. He dodged claws, countered attacks, and threw himself into the path of the Vorak to shield the weaker guards and fleeing civilians. A massive Vorak lunged at a group of children huddled near a collapsed building. Elias threw himself between them, feeling the creature's claws rake across his armor. Pain shot through him, but he pressed forward, slicing the beast with his glowing blade. The Vorak screamed, staggering backward before falling to the ground. He kept moving, every step a battle, every breath a fight against exhaustion. He saw guards falter and civilians freeze. Elias grabbed them, pulled them to safety, and threw himself into danger again. Then he saw it, a colossal Vorak warbeast, larger and faster than any he had faced before, charging directly toward the queen, who stood bravely in the palace courtyard, trying to coordinate the defense. "No!" he shouted, running as fast as his legs could carry him. The beast's roar shook the ground. Elias threw himself in front of it, raising his blade just in time. Claws and jaws slammed into his armor. Pain exploded in his side. He grunted but held his ground, twisting his body and driving his blade deep into the creature's chest. The beast collapsed, shaking the ground as it fell. Elias barely managed to roll out of the way, gasping, chest burning, vision blurred. The queen ran to him, her eyes wide with fear. "Elias, you cannot keep risking your life like this," she cried. Elias looked at her, bloodied and exhausted, yet smiling faintly. "I will, as long as they are safe," he said, his voice hoarse but determined. Cerise appeared, guided by aides, her silver eyes wide with tears. She ran to him, clutching his arm. "Human, please. Don't leave me," she whispered. Elias lifted her hand, brushing a tear from her cheek. "I'm not going anywhere," he promised. "Not while I can still fight." The Vorak were finally retreating, scattered by the humans' ferocity and the Lumerian guards' renewed courage. The city had survived, but Elias collapsed to his knees, every muscle screaming in pain. Cerise knelt beside him, holding his head gently. The queen approached slowly, placing a trembling hand on his shoulder. "Elias, you saved us all. Twice. You risked your life for a human, for a princess, for a city. You are not like anyone I have ever known." Elias could barely smile. Exhaustion, relief, and an overwhelming sense of purpose filled him. "I'm just a human," he whispered. The queen shook her head. "No, you are more than human. You are our protector. You are Lumeria's heart now." Cerise pressed her forehead against his shoulder, whispering, "I knew you were brave, but I didn't know. I didn't know you could carry all this. You saved everyone. Again." Elias closed his eyes, letting the adrenaline fade. The city was safe. The princess was safe. And for a moment, he allowed himself to feel something he had never felt before, the strange, deep bond that stretched. Between worlds, a bond only a human could bring, a courage only a human could show. He realized that it didn't matter if he belonged to Earth or Lumeria. Right now in this city under a silver sky, he had made a difference. He had proven what it meant to be human. And somehow that was enough. The queen looked at him with tears. In her eyes, the weight of gratitude and fear clear on her face. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "We will never let you go, not after this." Elias held Cerise's hand tightly, feeling the warmth of life he had fought to protect. He had faced death. He had faced monsters. And he had emerged alive, human, and more than anyone could have imagined. Because even in a world of stars and aliens, courage, loyalty, and heart were universal. And Elias Grant had them in abundance.